welcome to another Burgundy with Tweedy video. Something a bit special today, and as is often the case, it's partly just motivated by the fact that I have ran out of other Burgundy in my cellar, so I'm raiding my library of Domaine Fourrier Gevrey Chambertin. I had at some point one bottle from every vintage in the 2010s, more or less, possibly missed one. I don't think I have done a review of this particular vintage on the channel before. This is the 2018. This is, if you're not familiar with Domaine Fourrier, a bit of a cult producer, I think. It's a bit pricier than the usual stuff I would normally go for. I actually looked up the current pricing of this. I think I paid £84 for this bottle as part of a case of 6 about 4 years ago now. And surprisingly, it hasn't actually gone up in price significantly since then. I was able to still find some bottles at just shy of £100. I think Seckford are selling it just shy of £100. It's in bond, but once you add on the tax and everything, it comes to just shy of £100. Dog running past there. I don't know if that's partly because 2018, by at least some people, is not regarded as a brilliant vintage. It was that very hot year. I know I say the same things every time, and it did tend to end up with some producers with slightly sort of jammy, slightly sort of overworked wines. Domaine Fourrier as a house style have always championed relatively light extraction, and I have tried this before and I actually thought it was pretty decent. I didn't notice any signs of jamminess from these 2018s from Fourrier, their Gevrey Chambertin from 2018. It's been a while since I last had a bottle of this. This is actually the last of the 6. I don't remember how long ago it was now that I had the penultimate bottle. Escaped my memory, but I'm keen to revisit this. So this has been festering away in my cellar for, it is 4 years now, I think, since this arrived. And as I probably often say, my cellar doesn't really have perfect conditions. It was a bit mouldy on the outside, to be honest, sort of covered in dust and mould and everything, but I'm sure the wine on the inside will be fine. Well, in that sense it will be fine. Nothing will have penetrated this wax seal, but just going to give that an extra clean from a sort of hygiene point of view. And then, as always, I believe the process with these is just to plunge straight through the wax, which always feels a bit strange, but it's apparently the way it's done. Try not to drop too much of the wax in the wine as you're doing so. That looks in pretty good condition to me. I mean, this is only 7 years old. It's not an ancient wine by any stretch of the imagination. I wouldn't expect that to be in a particularly poor state. I always think it's slightly better to take at least a bit of the wax off where the wine's going to be poured out. Feels a bit strange having the wine, oh sorry, that's off screen, isn't it? Feels a bit strange having the wine poured over that slightly mouldy wax. Colour wise, it's slightly murky, isn't it? I don't think this is fined or filtered. I don't think much Burgundy is it? But not the most sort of glossy, shiny looking of wines. It is a bit of a dull day, which doesn't help either, but slightly brownish colour to that. I think in the past I remember that Domaine Fourrier wines do take a while to wake up. Ideally, I'd probably even decant this. I know that's controversial for Burgundy, but I'm in the woods. It would be ridiculous to bring a carafe, a decanter out, so I'm just going to have to swirl this a lot and then take it slow, I think. Very first nose is quite nice bright cherry there, possibly a bit of dark fruit behind that, bit of sort of blackberryish fruit, so that could tempt me to think that that cherry is leaning more towards black cherry. Yeah, bright flash of cherry, a little bit of darker fruit, possibly a bit of berry fruit, some of the usual suspects there. But I think I'm also getting a little bit of sous-bois, sort of forest floor kind of earthy sort of aroma there, mixed in with all of that. I know I am sitting on the forest floor, but I'm pretty sure that particular variant of forest floor is coming from the glass rather than the actual forest floor. Possibly a tiny bit mushroomy. The fruit there is definitely giving a sense of being a bit more aged, a bit more matured, a bit more, don't want to say decomposing, but seasoned. Give that a swirl, see what difference that makes. As always, the swirl seems to sort of lighten that up a bit, liven it up a bit. The fruit's slightly fresher. Slight sort of woody notes there, nice kind of sensation of something fresh and woody, pine-like almost. But that's subtle. The soup was not really stinky. It's a sort of relatively light, pleasant sort of forest floor, not a kind of there's something unpleasant lurking under those rotting leaves sort of forest floor, if you know what I mean. More of that bright cherry there, possibly black cherry, bright black cherry, shiny black cherries. Well, that's not a bad start. There's definitely lots of fruit there, which is great. It's a little bit on the serious side, a little bit on the decomposing, sous-vide, mushroomy, rotting fruit side. Not rotting fruit, but you know what I mean. Seasoned fruit. Possibly getting a floral hint on the end of that nose. Maybe a tiny bit of something rose-like there as well. Quite savoury, actually. Not in a bad way, that first sip, but relatively savoury. Fairly mineral, I think. Yeah, mineral. Serious again. Almost slightly marmitey edges to that. I thought I detected a little bit of sediment there. It could just be my imagination. It could just be a trick of possibly a slight tannic edge to that my tongue was thinking was slight sediment. I don't think I could see any bits floating in that. Oh, I don't know. Perhaps there is the lighting was better. Maybe there is a tiny bit of sediment in there. I don't know. There is a decent amount of concentration there, but at the moment, the characters I'm getting from it are more those savoury, minerally type notes rather than fruit. And I think that's one of those things that will take a little bit of time to wake up. So I might pause it at that point, swirl this around for a while, nose it a bit more, sip it a bit more, and I think we'll probably start to see something else emerge on the palate. I've given this a good half an hour maybe to wake up somewhat. Lots of swirling. The nose is taking on a nice perfumey sort of quality now. There is both a slightly sort of floral side to that, but also a mushroomy kind of perfumey scent there, in the way that you describe truffles as perfumed. It isn't exactly truffle, but it's something like that. It's got that sort of very sophisticated kind of mushroomy smell. We're not talking about ordinary white mushrooms here. Something a bit reminiscent of, I don't know, porcini, truffle, but not exactly either of those. Somewhere in that sort of vague category of really nice gourmet mushrooms. And at the same time, something a bit floral there. And still those pretty, I think now, fruit hints. Cherry, bit of dark fruit, bit of black cherry maybe. Possibly a bit of blackberry. I'm noticing the blackberry less now, and correspondingly the palette is getting daintier and prettier. It's certainly not light in colour, is it? When I say dainty, I don't mean light as a very under-extracted Pinot Noir would be, or one from underripe fruit. It isn't light in either of those senses. It's sort of dark but dainty. They sound contradictory, don't they? But it does have this really nice elegance, I suppose. Perhaps that's the word I'm looking for. Elegance on the palate. Minerality, really nice balance to that. It's not a big fruity wine, but then I never expect Fourrier to be a big fruity wine. They tend to do, as I said at the start, relatively light, modest, gentle extraction from the grapes. So you get all these kind of pretty perfumey sort of aromas out of them, but perhaps not the big juicy fruit. And that is definitely pretty and perfumey now. There is no sense of a jammy 2018 wine here whatsoever. As Fourriers go, it's maybe a bit darker than some of the others, but this is not the only Fourrier Gevrey Chambertin I've had with that sort of colour. They can lean towards the darker side, but this certainly isn't anything like being oversweet or jammy, or it's pretty and delicate and dainty from 2018. All that hot sun, and yet that's a pretty delicate, dainty wine. Still quite savoury on the palate as well, still I suppose more mushroomy notes. Did I mention Marmite earlier? It's not really Marmite. It's just, I suppose that's when I get savoury notes, I start to think of Marmite. But savoury, mushroomy notes. There is some fruit there, but it's not big and juicy and fruity. It's more pretty, elegant, dainty, but also savoury, mineral, mushroomy, and sophisticated tasting. I don't know how else to describe that, really. It's a serious, grown-up sort of Burgundy. I will keep mulling that over a bit longer, and if I have any further thoughts, I'll come back to you. But that might be, I think, a reasonable summary. I don't know, perhaps if I do have any further thoughts. Otherwise, if not, enjoying that. Cheers.